Good morning. It's Erica of AriBo Arts, and we're here for Battmaking with AriBo Arts in the Woolen Fiber Arts community group on Facebook. Or maybe you're watching this on YouTube. I don't know. So I got you set up this morning. You're a slightly bit cockeyed because I still haven't gotten the new battery for my phone. So I had to sort of contort my tripod to allow me to plug my phone in so it doesn't die on us, because it would probably die after about 5 minutes. It does okay if I'm just sort of doing some basic surfing, but the minute I start watching like Instagram reels, it dies like that. So, okay, so what are we going to do today? Well, I was feeling kind of purple. Normally I kind of try and do the shirt to match, but we're sort of doing a contrast. So our base is going to be this. Can you see the sparkle? Oh, yeah. So this is one of those merino tri-lobal nylon, which is Angelina. Firestar blends. So it's a commercial blend. And this is sort of deep purple. It's like a deep eggplanty color. And so we're going to use this as the base. So it'll be very sparkly. I have some lavender bamboo. I have some purple mulberry silk, which I'm not sure how much of that I'm going to use. For a little bit of contrast, I've got this tussle silk green that I used recently. I just don't remember if it was for this demo here or a demo on my page. So that's the plan. I may grab something else, but this is sort of what I'm feeling this morning. I do have, and I may do a little bit of gold. Sorry, silk, but actually now that I'm looking at it, I might want to do green, because I think that's going to pick up the green of the Tussa silk. I think there's enough difference there to make some contrast. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, so we're going to find the end. Somewhere there's an end. And actually, I'm going to pick this up and I'm going to move this off camera, just because it's easier. But while I have it here, or I put it on top of this other stuff, I want to quickly show you, because I don't think I put these in the group. This was the new rigid huddle loom that I got. I finished the warp I had on there, and so this still has to be like cleaned up and the edges woven in. But this is the scarf I made. I'm going to learn how to twist fringe on there, because I didn't. Is this the one I didn't remember to? No, this one I did hem stitch. So I've got that, and then I have this smaller piece, so that first piece ended up being a little too long. And so this piece here is rather short. I may turn it into a cowl. We will see. This one's got a pretty basic pattern, but I had fun doing it. So, okay, now let's get started. Finding my end again. So this is essentially merino top that just got the Firestar blended in it. Pretty sure it's a World of Wool product. But no shade on them. They serve a purpose. And I think I'm just gonna spread it all the way out. Sometimes I just do like bits and move my way over, but I think I'm just gonna do that. I'm also going to keep my knitting needle handy, because merino top has a tendency to want to cling to the liquor in here as opposed to go to the drum. So it's always let's figure this out. What's it going to want to do? And it wants to go onto the drum. Yay! Little squeaky still. How you know Sebastian is at work. Okay, so there's our first layer. And if you're watching, if you want to pop any questions down in the comments, go right ahead. I still can't see comments on Facebook. If you're watching this later on YouTube, I think they send me notifications when anybody comments. So you can certainly comment. You can ask questions about this bat or technique or things like that. Perfectly fine. Okay, so this is the bamboo. And bamboo is something I paint on, like this. So we're building a layered bat, like that. Let's see what this other purple looks like. Not sure what this is. Oh, this is from something else I made. These are mohair locks that wandered into this bag because I made something with this silk and mohair locks. Then when I cleaned up stuff, just sort of. Not sure how much difference this color is. Seems I want a little more pop, but you can certainly get with the green. Now, this particular tussle silk, I don't know if you can see it, but you can see how there's some paler bits in the middle. So when this was dyed, it did not go all the way through. This is hand dyed. The other stuff I'm using is commercial. This hand dyed by somebody in Missouri that I got stuff from at a show. Isn't that green nice on there? Okay. I can't really get any closer because of the weird angle I've got the camera at. But let's see. I think this. I'm hoping I have more of this somewhere. I think this is gonna pop. The Sorry Silk has bits of other color in it too. So there we go. Do we want the gold? That's the question. Let me pull out the gold. Do we want some of this on there? What do you think? And I could just do a little bit. Just for like a really nice contrast. I think that works. Just like light hand. Okay, so we'll get out. Now the Sorry Silk was pretty light, so it helps if I push it down like that. Yeah, that works. Okay, next layer. So I will be in the October WAFA sale. They haven't come up with the schedule yet, so I suspect I'm going to be on Sunday because that's what I requested. I have an in-person show on Saturday. That's about 4 hours away. And so I'm going to go out on Friday, set up very early on Saturday morning, tear down, and then drive home. But it's a show that I've done for a while. They usually do it in the spring. Some years they do a spring and fall. And I couldn't do this spring because it conflicted with a big show in Michigan for me. And so I was all excited when she decided she would do a fall one. Because I was like, I can make that date work. Okay, a little bit of the mulberry. It's nice to have like multiple, particularly when you're dealing with some solids, multiple different tones of a color so that you get a little more depth there. Different color purples. And then we'll put on the Tessa Silk. Okay, I'm going to quickly look here to see if I have more, because this is all I have with the green. I swear I had more though. Oh, I do. I have another one. Okay. This is my bag of Sorry Silk. Sorry. Yeah, I get this weekend. Well, this weekend I have a guild meeting. But it's like, I don't have a show this weekend. It's like my last free weekend until December. I have my first show in Minnesota in a week and a half. I have the WAF sale and what's that doing there? Okay. And I just was like looking at something. I'm like, what is that? I'm still. I had a show last weekend in Indiana, and Indiana always, it's just like, it's like just past Illinois. It's not like that far away, but it always takes me way longer. I feel like it's because of the time change. Because I lose an hour going out and I gain one coming back. So it always feels shorter coming back, even though it's exactly the same amount of time. But I was just so groggy on Monday, and I was better yesterday, still a bit groggy today. Just from, sort of recovering from doing the show. And I was camping, and they had this, we were at the fairgrounds, which I'm very happy for that particular county because their fairgrounds gets a lot of use. That use included on, I got there on Wednesday, so I was up there Wednesday night and Thursday night. Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night. And on the first, Wednesday night and Thursday night, it was super quiet. I was the only one there on Wednesday night. Next night, the other vendors showed up. There's just about 5 or 6 of us. But it was like, really pretty dark, though the campground backed up on the county's DPW, Department of Public Works. So all the dump trucks and stuff like that. So usually by 7:30, it was noisy in the morning. And then there was also a construction site on, I guess, some land that had belonged to the fairgrounds that had been bought by the city or something. I'm not quite sure which. But there was construction going on there. So you couldn't really sleep in. And then Friday night, because nights had been sort of quiet and dark except for the train when it went by and a few airplanes because it was the regional airport. But they turned on all the floodlights and we were like, what's going on? And they were like going around and doing like yard work in the dark. And I was like, okay, they're just trying to, do the yard work. And then they left the lights on. And I'm in a tent. I'm like, I could read in the tent without my own personal light on. It was so bright. And eventually, I think they were on a timer, and I think they went off at like 10 or something. But they didn't go all the way off. So I couldn't star watch, because like, if I have to get up in the middle of the night and go to the bathroom and walk down to where the bathroom was, I could like look up and like great stars. And it was, it was too bright. I didn't need my flashlight, but it was still too bright. It was dark enough to sleep, but not dark enough that I could see the stars anymore. And so, it's about 6 a.m., the lights flick back on. And I'm like, I'm sort of waking up. And then I start hearing pounding music, like heavy bass and drums, and people shouting, like, woo-hoo, and, all like, let's get revved up and stuff. And we had been told that on Sunday morning, this is Saturday morning, but on Sunday morning, there was going to be a charity race. And so, we needed to sort of work around that. And I was like, cool, okay, whatever. And this is the Sorry Silk. But I'm like, this is Saturday. What's going on? Okay. And the shouting, and it's hard to tell, like, is it coming from the fairgrounds or the school down the way or what? Because at one point I'd heard, like, band practice for, probably football games or whatever. I was just like, I don't know what's going on. So it turns out that there was some sort of like gym exercise club thing where they run 5K every hour. And so they start running around and we're just like crawling out of our beds. And there's this pounding music and we were just like, oh my. And it went on all day. So, we were on one end of the fairgrounds. The venue was on the other end of the fairgrounds. And no matter where you were, you could hear that music. And like in the venue, we're like trying to sell stuff. We're like, okay, what's going on? So yeah, that was interesting. I've got to say, if I had left as early as I'd initially planned, I would have missed the charity run on Sunday. Turns out it was for the Humane Society, and It's called like Run for the Animals, and it was very much a low key. After that, sort of way too much forced energy of the Saturday event. The Sunday one, which I think started like over by the school, there's like a whole walking path area, and so they only came by our area like once, because I guess you can do loops to make it, make your run longer. But like half the people had their dogs with them, or had a stroller with their kids. And some people were just walking their dogs. They weren't even running. They were just like, taking part and walking. And it was so cute watching them walk by. Would have been cuter in costume, but and I sort of realized before it turns out it didn't start till like 10. I was waiting for my tent to dry because the dew was so heavy. I didn't want to pack up a wet tent. Some of the other vendors, because we were all like, post-show taking it easy. And two of the other vendors had dogs with them, but they just weren't sort of letting around because there was nobody around. And I'm like, and suddenly I hear in the distance a whole bunch of dogs barking at what I figured was probably the starting line. And actually, I don't know if the dogs being walked and run with were people's personal dogs, because sometimes these types of events, you can essentially take a shelter dog with you. And so I don't know which they were. But so I went over to the other vendors because, they were all gabbing, and so they weren't really paying attention. I'm like, okay, I think they're probably going to come by with dogs, so you might want to make sure that your dogs are confined or on leash so that they don't decide to take part, because they're not signed up. But, so then I had a nice long drive back and all that. So I'm recovering, and then I said I've got a show in Minnesota in a week and a half, and I got a show in Illinois, the same as the WAF weekend, and then I've got my local guild has a show, and then a show in Arkansas, and I got a show in Wisconsin, and then I got a show in Iowa, and then a waffle sale. And that is, apart from anything I do on my own page, that is it for the year. I can't believe it's that far into the year. Actually got down to 38 last night, and I'm a little worried that I haven't gone out to my garden yet to see if my basil survived. One of the things I'm doing between now and probably when I leave in a week and a half for the show is I'm going to have the giant pesto making event. I'm going to make a whole bunch. I have 8 giant basil plants in my garden. I'm hoping they've survived the cooler weather. Got down to 38, but it's in town and there's lots of other plants around them. And so I'm going to make big, huge batches of pesto, and then I freeze them in ice cube trays into individual servings. And I have this whole method where I don't, I don't add the full amount of oil, I don't add the full amount of cheese, though I do the full amount of garlic, and I do the full amount of, I use walnuts because I can't afford pine nuts. So the full amount of pesto and salt and garlic and the nuts, but I hold back on the cheese. I mean, cheese does freeze, but I do a light hand, and then I do a light hand with the oil, and then I freeze it in ice cube trays, and then I just have several big Ziploc bags, and you can just take out the amount you want. And then when you put it in the microwave, you drizzle it with some more olive oil and add cheese to your liking. And so I'm going to do that. Hopefully it will turn out just fine. I also want to harvest some rosemary and dry that. I don't know if the plant would survive if I bring it in. I might. I'll try it. And I also have some English lavender, which I actually was growing. I might harvest some seeds. I need to look it up because supposedly you can use lavender for natural dyeing. But I don't think it's the flowers. I think it's actually the stalks. I'm going to look that up. Because I could pull off, obviously, the fragrant leaves and make potpourri. But I need to find out what part I could use for dyeing. I never got my Cosmos did lovely. And if I was organized enough, I could have done some dyeing with them, but that didn't happen. And I had a lot of marigolds, and first I was just seeing if I could grow them. I am going to see if the indigo plants have survived. I've just got 2. They're not particularly big. But maybe I can do like 1 batch of fresh indigo. I have a couple of silk scarves I've set aside that I might use for that. I just need to look up the technique. It's the one where you use them with like use a blender and you put them in with crushed ice. Teddy from Timber and Twine did one on Facebook recently. This could be the last layer. We'll have to see. Because it's merino top, you can get a lot on a drum. Yeah, it's going to be on the smaller side, but I think that'll be fine. I will put this aside so I can make more. Okay, let's take this off. So, if you want to guess how much it weighs, go right ahead. I'll give out trophy emojis to the person who gets closest. Since we actually do have multiple people watching. Okay, and if you're watching on YouTube later, because I will download this and upload it completely unedited onto my YouTube channel, you could also guess there. So this is somewhat similar to a series of bats I did recently called Secret Garden that had a purple base, but it was I grabbed the purple. It was this purple base at the bottom. That could have been the green. I can't remember. I still have a couple left. Okay, so I've just broken the bat. There you can see it's broken. I'll take this side and press it down. That'll prevent it from being pulled by the liquor in. And then we're just going to pull this out in case I need it. Because I'm talking, I can't keep it. I often keep it in my mouth. Okay, roll back. Yeah, top comes off much easier than roving. It's only if like any teeth tines have crossed that it will get snagged. So it's a pretty thin bat, but that's also because it's top. Okay. Reveal. There we go. There's some spring colors. It's actually only going to be in the 60s today. It was in the 80s. Oh, look at that. I got left with part of it right there. So let us take this off. And this will be just a little extra that we will tuck into the bat. Okay, let's do the weight. And then I'll also make sure I don't have another big blob of purple on me. Entirely possible. Okay, put that on. Tear it out. I think I'm just going to do a little sort of purple like that. Drum roll is, well, it's actually not as small as I thought it was. It's because it's the merino top. 2.45. Right? Yes, 2.45. Let me grab one of these so I can write it down right away. Yeah, that's a good, decent ounce and a half, 2.5 ounces. Okay. So I will do the fluff and fold. There won't be as much fluffing because it's pretty thin, but I will tease it out a little bit, do the fold and the roll, take some photos, and I'll put it up in the group. Okay? So, thank you very much for tuning in. If you do have a name suggestion, pop it down at the bottom. Otherwise, I'll come up with something. Okay? Other events this week, there is the Zoom spin-along tomorrow night. There's an event for it. I know because yesterday I made all the events for October. Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. Zoom link is in the event description. And you don't have to be spinning. You can just hang out. You can knit. You can do whatever. Okay? Otherwise, that's about it for this week. Okay? You take care. And I'll see you around on Facebook or YouTube.